Untitled document. Two travelers arrive at the airport on the same morning. One turns off a quiet road and steps into a private terminal. No lines, no announcements. The aircraft is waiting, engines warming, schedule built entirely around a single decision: when to leave. The other enters a first-class lounge. Soft lighting, fine food, attentive service. It's premium, comfortable, and unmistakably expensive, yet still shared, still synchronized to an airline timetable. Both seats promise luxury, both signal success, but the difference between them isn't comfort. It's cost, control, and what you're actually paying for. Because while one option feels extravagant, the other operates on a completely different financial reality.
Your meal, madam. Enjoy.
All set in the rear.
In this video, we're not asking which experience looks better on camera. We're asking a more interesting question. What does each choice truly cost? And why do intelligent, wealthy travelers still choose both? At a glance, the choice seems obvious. Private jets represent ultimate freedom. You arrive when you want, leave when you decide, skip security lines, avoid crowds, and sit in a cabin where every detail exists for one passenger. Privacy feels absolute, and control feels total. First class, by contrast, is perceived as refined luxury. Wide seats, fine dining, attentive crews, priority boarding, and access to elegant lounges. It feels exclusive, calm, and deliberately removed from the chaos of economy travel. But this is where most comparisons stop. People compare experiences instead of economics. They compare comfort instead of structure. They assume higher price simply means better luxury. In reality, neither option is really about the seat. The seat is only a symbol. You are paying for the system behind it, how the aircraft is used, and how the cost is shared. That distinction changes the entire comparison completely for most. On long-haul international routes, a first-class ticket often sits in a range that feels shocking at first glance. Tens of thousands of dollars for a single seat. To most people, that sounds excessive. But the reason it exists is far more practical than it appears. When you buy a first-class ticket, you are not paying to make the plane fly. The aircraft was already scheduled to cross that ocean whether you were on it or not. The crew was already hired. The fuel was already loaded. Maintenance, insurance, and airport fees were already accounted for. Your ticket covers only a fraction of those fixed costs. Airlines simply distribute them across hundreds of passengers. First class costs more because it takes more space, more service, and more attention. But it is still built on shared economics. This is why first class, despite its price, remains remarkably efficient. You get premium comfort, global reach, and predictable costs without carrying the financial weight of the aircraft itself. This is where the tone changes, because private aviation operates on a very different reality. When you fly private, the cost does not begin when you take off. It exists long before the engines start. Every hour in the air carries a direct operating cost. Fuel, pilots, cabin crew, maintenance reserves, and wear on the aircraft all accumulate by the minute. Even a short flight can cost more than an international first-class ticket, simply because the entire operation exists for one trip, but the larger cost sits quietly in the background. A private jet continues to generate expenses even when it never leaves the ground. Hangar fees, insurance, scheduled maintenance, crew salaries, and regulatory requirements do not pause. Ownership or long-term access means paying for readiness, not just usage. Then there are positioning flights. If the aircraft needs to fly empty to pick you up or return to base after dropping you off, those hours still count. No passengers, no shared cost, just pure expense. This is the key difference. Flying private means you are no longer buying transportation. You are funding an entire aviation system built around flexibility and control. At this level, the comparison stops being about money and starts being about time. For people who fly private, cost is only one variable. Control is the real currency. Private aviation buys complete schedule authority. You leave when you arrive, not when a gate opens. Routes are direct, not dictated by airline hubs. If a meeting runs long, the aircraft waits. If plans change, the flight adapts. There is no dependency on airline systems, crew rotations, or cascading delays caused by weather on another continent. This level of control compresses travel into something far more predictable. Hours lost to connections, buffers, and uncertainty are are eliminated. For certain travelers, that reclaimed time is worth far more than the additional cost. First class, even at its best, still operates within a shared system. It is efficient, refined, and comfortable, but never fully flexible. This is why private aviation exists at all. It is not about luxury for its own sake. It is about converting money into certainty and certainty into time. This is where expectations quietly flip. Despite the image surrounding private jets, there are many situations where first class is the more rational choice, even for extremely wealthy travelers. For solo flyers or couples, private aviation often struggles to justify itself financially. The cost of operating an entire aircraft for one or two people can be wildly inefficient when a first-class seat delivers comfort, privacy, and rest at a fraction of the price. Long international routes tilt the balance even further. Airlines are optimized for these distances. First-class cabins become flying suites, service is refined, and the marginal comfort gap between private and commercial narrows significantly over 12 or 15 hours in the air. And when flexibility isn't critical, when meetings are fixed and schedules are predictable, the advantages of private aviation lose their urgency. This is why many high-net-worth individuals deliberately choose first class, not because they can't fly private, but because they understand value. Luxury at this level is not about excess. It is about choosing the most intelligent tool for the journey. Beyond money and time, there is a quieter cost that rarely gets discussed: the psychological weight of the choice itself. Private jets project power, control, and status. They signal that schedules bend around you, not the other way around. That image is real, and for some, it matters. But image carries responsibility. Flying private means constant decision-making. Routes, timing, crews, logistics, and contingency planning never fully disappear. Even when outsourced, the aircraft remains your problem. The jet doesn't simply serve you, it demands attention. First class offers a different kind of luxury. It allows wealthy travelers to disengage. You arrive, sit down, and let a system handle everything else. There is comfort without obligation, status without operational stress. This is why some people quietly move back and forth between both worlds. One satisfies control and visibility, the other protects mental space. Luxury is not only about what you gain, sometimes it's about what you no longer have to think about. This comparison was never about which option is better. It was about which cost you actually understand. First class and private aviation solve different problems, even though they're both labeled luxury. First class is optimized. It spreads massive costs across thousands of passengers and delivers comfort, reach, and predictability with remarkable efficiency. It's luxury designed to work at scale. Private aviation is different. It isn't transportation in the traditional sense. It's a tool for control, certainty, and time compression, built by removing shared systems and absorbing their cost privately. That's why the price gap exists, and why it isn't a mistake. One option sells refinement within a system. The other sells freedom from the system entirely. Real luxury isn't about spending more to look impressive. It's about understanding what you're paying for and choosing the option that quietly serves your priorities best.